can hopefully edit out the first 10 seconds. What's up, everybody? It's your probably not your favorite political commentator back with a new video. Sorry it's been so long. I've been struggling with number one some mental health issues and stuff like that. Thinking about finding your place in the world and figuring out what you're gonna do next in life. That type of deal of stuff. And I also, ironically enough, got sick. I wound up getting sinusitis or sinitis, or however the fuck you pronounce it. And it's basically this: you get a cold, but because of the blockage caused by the cold, you wind up getting infections in your sinuses. So your whole fucking face hurts, and then if your face is not hurting, your nose is burning, and if your nose not burning, your face not hurting, your freaking teeth is hurting. So it feels like you got a dental problem and stuff like that. I'm coming over it now, and it's probably just due to the fact that the back and forth temperatures here in Michigan. Because one day it was like 70 degrees and shit. And then, ironically enough, it went back to being, you know, 40, 50. It even hit 32. It even snowed like the night I went to the see the circle jerks and stuff like that. So, give me 1 second. Sorry y'all had to see that. But anyway, for real. But anyway, for real though. So, yeah. So the back and forth temperatures caused me to get sick, have a cold, and have this little sinus infection. That's basically the bare minimum name. It's called sinus infection. Where your sinuses, the cavities swell up, and it causes like different pains in those areas: nose, face, and teeth. And like I said, I'm over it now. And like I said, it was like the temperature here cannot really decide what the fuck to do. So that's probably what was causing it. But anyway, back to business here. And the reason why, of course, I'm making this video, of course, I got my X-Men shirt on and shit like that, is because Ben Shapiro is doing something I really fucking dislike. Is when people try to, in one way or another, like what he's doing right here, is he's co-opting nerd culture in a way to push his white supremacist pro-capitalist apology agenda. It is not even really like pro-capitalist. It's pretty much just Ben Shapiro just promotes straight up fascism. He pretends to be a libertarian, but when you really think about the ways in which he wants people, because look, Ben Shapiro does not hate the government because the government, partakes in dealing with rich capitalists, or because they promote a pretty much white supremacist police state and stuff like that. Ben Shapiro wants these things, and he just hates that the government provides the bare minimum of he hates workers' rights protections and safety regulations. He hates civil rights protections for minorities and stuff like that. For Black Latino people, or for gay and trans people and women. He hates the fact that the government protects the people that he hates, and who his propaganda is meant to harm. That's why Ben Shapiro hates the government. He's not really a libertarian. He's pretty much just a fascist, a white supremacist. And he'll throw it up there and say, oh, how can I be a fascist or white supremacist? I'm Jewish. But it has been accounted for through history from people like, what's that dumbass Thomas Sowell, or, up to Jesse Lee Peterson and stuff like that. And many more people through history that have been known to be useful idiots to white supremacists and white supremacy or capitalism in America. Or in history in general. You had, slaves telling people who were planning escapes. You had, freaking, and you had people that were anti-civil rights and stuff like that in the 1960s and stuff. And you can see people like this today through people like Dave Chappelle, or like I said, Jesse Lee Peterson, or Candace Owens. There has been known throughout history of many different races for there to be useful idiots to fascism and white supremacy. And being a minority does not excuse you from this. But to the point further, always remember any of these guys who say that they're so-called libertarians, they are not true libertarians. Even though I think libertarianism is a dog shit stupid ideology alongside fascism and anarcho-capitalism, I can debate an actual libertarian, but Ben Shapiro is just a white supremacist dressed up to be something else, and you will see it in his video. Moreover is that he's doing something I really dislike. Like I said in that one other video when I was making fun of that what if art history guy, he's using nerd culture to push a white supremacist and capitalist apologia narrative. One thing that people need to know about comic books and stuff like that, and the TV shows and movies that are attached to them today, is the fact that these movies and TV shows have always critiqued capitalism, have always critiqued in-group, out-groups, a la white supremacy and stuff like that, have always shown, minority people being in the spotlight and stuff like that. Like back in the early 2000s, we had a show about a black superhero. We had a show about Static Shock. Batman Beyond was pretty much Terry's father got killed by a corrupt corporatist and shit like that. So it needs to always be known that, X-Men was basically analogous to the civil rights movement going on at the time for, gay people, women, or black people. Just insert your person here. Stan Lee verbally said that X-Men was created to, let people know that just because somebody is different than you, don't mean that, that you should discriminate against them. What I'm getting at here, even for Batman in general, was always critiqued on, psychology, capitalism, and, mental health, and, vigilantism and stuff like that, and policing, and police corruption, and capitalist corruption. Any Batman story follows, these type of themes and stuff. Is that these themes have always critiqued Ben Shapiro's worldview and were never pro-conservative and pro-police. Batman was not created to just watch a man beat up criminals. Don't get me wrong, you got like the 60s Batman show and stuff like that. That was pretty cheesy. And plus that one Batman movie in the 90s, I think it was like Batman Forever or some shit like that, where it was really cheesy and not gritty and stuff like that. But for the most part, these movies and TV shows were created to critique, capitalism, white supremacy, corporatism, how serious we take mental health and stuff like that, and more. Not just Batman, but most superhero in many anime for that matter. And Ben Shapiro is just somehow, he's being willfully ignorant, and he's just too stupid to see it. And the last thing I would say, as far as the priming before we press play, is that I cannot believe when I was like 15, 16, 17, to an extent, I was in my Gamergate NTSJW era. I never voted Republican. I voted for Hillary and Obama. I was old enough to vote in 2012. Yeah, sue me. But I thought Ben Shapiro was pretty smart and brought up some good points. And I cannot looking at him today as a 26-year-old adult with a job and and knowing the things that I've learned through just like life experiences about, LGBT people, or, dealing with racism myself, or living in poverty, I can understand how anybody thinks this guy is smart. But I suppose like how he gets a lot of you younger guys is because he talks fast and he has media training. So when he's in debates also, he makes sure that he's in complete control over the debate. So the 19-year-old college student, his 30-year-old ass is debating, doesn't really have a chance to clap back at none of the nonsense that he's spouting. That's why you rarely see him go up against experienced debaters, because he always loses. You can see him versus Neil deGrasse Tyson on trans issues as an example, which I may or may not do after this video. But let's just get started and see what this stupid motherfucker has to say about the Batman, which I've seen.
Alrighty, folks. So last night I went and I saw The Batman. My review of that is coming up in just one moment. This video is sponsored by Ring. So, last night I went and saw The Batman. Went and saw it with my wife. It is 1 million hours long.
How the fuck is he married?
And it's one of those movies where I started off and I was like, okay. And then I got
Then it started critiquing mental health, capitalism, and white supremacy, and corrupt government officials, the people that pay me for a living. And I got upset because it was insulting my whole ideology and way of life, I guess.
I was like, all right. And then I got to the end, I was like, meh. And then the more I thought about it, the angrier I became.
So you're about to hear talking about corrupt politicians. Ooh, I got angry.
A lot of hot takes on the Batman because I hate this movie.
because
Okay, first of all, I'm just going to tell you right up front, spoilers. Spoilers aplenty here. So if you haven't seen the film yet and you want to see the film and you don't want to be spoiled, I'm warning you. You've been warned. All right.
I've seen the movie. If you haven't seen the movie, like he said, try not to watch this. If you one of the people that don't care and you just like seeing people make fun of this stupid motherfucker, go ahead and watch along.
This is Detective Batman. So if the original Michael Keaton Batman was sort of crime-fighting Batman and the Christopher Nolan Batman was city-saving Batman, this Batman is supposed to be Detective Batman. And this has a long history in the Batman comics. Some of the best Batman comics, particularly my favorite, The Long Halloween, is rooted in the idea of Batman not just as Caped Crusader, but as a great detective, smarter than everybody else, capable of picking up on clues, investigating and tracking down crimes. I'm going to start with what's right with the film because it's going to be real short. So what's right with the film is that it looks great. It is a film noirish take on Gotham City. It almost feels kind of like retro Taxi Driver Gotham City. So everything is very dirty. It's all taking place at night. It's shot in kind of grayscale at times. It's got a lot of warm oranges and reds, but against a very dark black. So it's a lot of muttered dialogue. It feels as though it's taking place in the same city as Joker is taking place. So if you saw Joker, Todd Phillips' Joker, which looks like 1970s New York, it feels almost like the other half of that, but it seems more like the take on what...
Didn't learn nothing from the Joker either, I bet.
Future New York would look like if you were living in New York in 1970. That's sort of a good way of putting it.
Gotham is based on New York City.
The music to the film is okay. I think that Michael Giacchino tends
pretty good
to be a little bit derivative in how he does the scores to the films. This one, he basically takes the music that Hans Zimmer and James Newton Howard wrote for Batman Begins in the Nolan trilogy, which the theme goes da da, and here he just inverts it. So instead of da da, it's da da. Okay, fine. So it's a little bit derivative, but the score is totally fine. The acting is okay, as we'll find out in a second. They give Robert Pattinson nothing to do as Batman. Nothing to do as Batman. I didn't think that Zoe Kravitz had any sort of chemistry with Robert Pattinson. So she's fine. She's kind of flirty. I didn't see anything particularly wrong with her performance. I just didn't see a lot right with her performance.
She was black. I'm not sure what race she is, but you already know. See, this is how he gets. But because you know how I just primed you in those first like 5 or 6 minutes. He's priming you to hate black people by trying. What he's about to do is get started saying like, oh, this colored person is forced diversity in this movie. I just really didn't like her performance. I mean, it's not because she's black or anything, but still, it kind of feels like it's forced diversity in this movie.
We have John Turturro showing up as Carmine Falcone, and he is John Turturro, so he's okay. He's somewhat menacing. The best performance in the film is Colin Farrell playing the Penguin. You literally cannot spot Colin Farrell in this makeup. There is no way you can see Colin Farrell here. The whole movie, I'm staring at him going, that's not Colin. It is Colin Farrell. It's the best performance in the movie. Paul Dano gives a good performance in the film, although he's sort of playing the Joker a little bit, although he's playing it more wide-eyed, as Paul Dano is apt to do. The main character of the film is the Riddler. And herein lies the main problem with the film. The biggest problem with the film is that the film hates Batman.
No, it does not. No, it does not. We let him talk it out first. No, because it's like before he start like lying to people, the film does not hate Batman. The film and the people in the film, like the criminals and the normal people, just see Batman as a form of vigilantism and vengeance and pain, something to be afraid of instead of a hero. And Batman slowly learns throughout this movie that he has to actually help save people, care for others, not just beat up criminals.
Like the actual Batman character hates the Batman character. And this drives me up an absolute wall. The biggest problem with the film is not the wokeness. Yes, there's some woke touches. You have Catwoman.
You remember when, what's that? Halle Berry was Catwoman about 10, 15 years ago, bro, and nobody said nothing. What happened? I miss that sometimes. Now, every single time it's a movie with a black person or, Latino person or a white person. I mean, not a white person or a gay person or a trans person or about a woman. We got to hear it from people like him.
Who is a woman of color.
Cannot diversify films and television in any way, shape, or form. If it's not about a white person, he bitches about it every single time. I cannot stand people like him. I cannot stand the quartering, and I can't stand like geeks and gamers and the rest of the motherfuckers out there that get so upset every single fucking time it's a movie about somebody that's not just this well-to-do white person. It's more people out there with many different kinds of fucking lives, man. And you can't get mad every single time. It's people out there that need representation, people that need somebody to fucking look up to. I'm not telling them to look up to the fucking Catburger or Catwoman, but I'm saying that, especially in cases like Black Panther and whatnot, that shit matters where somebody of a, that's African American especially sees, every time that they're played by somebody, it's a fucking criminal, it's somebody that's stealing something, it's a bad person, some type of hood, tragic ass movie. It's good to see somebody of your race flying through the fucking air and beating up bad people, so you can know that there's something more out there that you can do, and there's something more out there that you can be. That really fucking helps.
Who is, of course, good, and you have the black female mayor who is good, and you have the black Jim Gordon who is good. Every
Jim
white character
Gordon would have been a good guy no matter what the fuck race he was. Jim Gordon is the chief of police in Gotham, one of the few non-corrupt police officers in Gotham City. It doesn't matter what race he is going to be a fucking good guy.
is apparently bad, like all of them. Fine, whatever. I don't really
Every white person ain't bad in a fucking movie. Catwoman is a fucking thief.
care about that. That's fine. You have Catwoman say stuff about white privileged elites, and she makes a suggestion that Bruce
She never said nothing like that if you ain't see this movie.
Wayne as a child, when his parents were killed, he doesn't really have a right to be super upset about that because, of course, he was very, very rich. That doesn't kind of rings hollow. Now, a lot of these lines seem like throwaways for film lefty Twitter, but the main theme is not a throwaway. The main
See, those are those little buzzwords that he helps. Like, he uses to, like, indoctrinate people into saying, oh, lefty Twitter this. Oh, the leftists are coming to get you. Oh, they're attacking the innocent white people. Damn, that's an ugly-ass face I paused on. Wow.
main theme is what matters here. The film despises Batman. So every Batman iteration has to
We went over this.
explain why a man who is a billionaire would dress up like a bat and go around beating up criminals. It's not answered. And the director doesn't know. And the writer doesn't.
Bitch, we know. We know the reason why Batman exists in general as a character. We don't have to go over it. We don't have to Uncle Ben the shit every fucking time. We know the reason why Batman exists. Batman exists because he's a mentally broken person who goes around in a bat suit with armor and fucking advanced martial arts skills and advanced technology, attacking criminals because he doesn't want what was taken from him to be taken from nobody else. And it could be a good and a bad thing, of course, depending on how you want to look at it. Because, of course, a vigilante with mental illness shouldn't be going around beating up criminals. But at the same time, we can also argue that, yeah, it's a good thing Batman does this. Imagine the amount of lives he can save. It reminds me of this line from Justice League Unlimited where he was like, those monsters you don't fight, they tend to step on the little guys.
No. And this is the problem. So in the Nolan films, to take the contrast, the question as to why Batman does this is because if Batman does not actually intimidate the criminal underworld because the city is so corrupt, no one else will do it, and money isn't going to solve the problem. And so he needs to create a theatrical...
Money can't solve the fucking problem, man. Come on. Like, we can invest in, like, things like public transportation, better schooling, and, food stamp and SNAP programs, and take money away from, like, let's say the American defense budget or police budgets. Instead of policing people and beating them into the fucking ground, you can invest money into communities and cities to make sure that these cities and communities invest in places like community centers and shit like that. So there's things that you can do to better your world. And Ben Shapiro doesn't want you thinking about that. He wants you to just be a fucking idiot, a fucking caveman. We beat criminals. Like beating criminals and putting them in jail don't always, and actually has less of a chance of solving the actual problems when you're not thinking about things like education, mental illness, and making sure people have a way to get to higher employment or a way to higher education.
Kind of fear in order to dissuade the criminal underworld from participating. And then, as it turns out, he also has to save the city itself and demonstrate his faith in the city by becoming a symbol. Here, you don't really know why Batman is doing what he's doing.
Yes,
it's never explained.
Everybody fucking knows. Why the fuck we have to go over that story again? The movie doesn't have to start at him getting his parents fucking killed.
He's very wealthy. He doesn't apparently do anything with his wealth. He doesn't try to give charity. He doesn't try, I mean, this is actually made a plot point. He's a bad
Maybe they should tax him.
man because he's white. He's a bad white man.
He's not bad because he's white. It wouldn't matter. Batman could be black or fucking Irish. Oh wait, don't they count as white people now? I mean Latino, as in South American. Yeah, those don't count as white people for some reason. But to some people, they count as white. No, but for real, he's not bad because he's white. He's bad because he's a wealthy billionaire that goes around beating people up in a bat suit instead of actually investing into his community to help alleviate some of the poverty and frustration that leads to people turning to crime. Not to mention the fact he refuses to understand the fact that people need more than just a vigilante going around beating people up. They need an actual hero, a symbol, somebody that actually cares about the well-being and health of the civilians and not just a psychopath in a suit.
Who doesn't actually give charity. He's not involved, and he's not playing that as a role. Again, this is part of the problem, is that Bruce Wayne and Batman are the same character. So I keep using the Nolan comparison because it is the gold standard for all superhero movies, not just Batman movies. So when you look at Nolan's Batman, Bruce Wayne is the character that Batman is playing. Okay, Bruce Wayne is not real. Batman is real. Batman is who Bruce Wayne really is. And so he has to play a fop. In Batman Begins, he's squiring around ladies in his Lamborghini, and
he's wanted to take it a different way this time. Hey, when you really think about it, Batman was always playing like it's no fucking way, bro. Because it's more realistic if you ask me. Because there's no fucking way nobody goes around fighting like mutated zombies and fucking criminals all day and shit. It's gonna be a normal person just talking to you like everything is fucking okay. I feel like if Batman was an actual person, he'd be more like the Bruce Wayne from Batman Beyond when he was old. He would be old, angry, not afraid of a fucking damn thing, and just not smile and not necessarily looking at life like it's the worst thing ever, but not somebody that's gonna be smiling and patting everybody on the back.
Buying hotels, and he's doing all of this just to cover up for the fact that he is Batman. So you get very separate Batman and Bruce Wayne. You get the same thing actually with Michael Keaton. Batman and Bruce Wayne are two different characters. Here, Batman and Bruce Wayne are the exact same character. There are points where Bruce Wayne is walking around. He's got the same dour expression, same glazed look, same kind of emo thing going on as Batman does the entire movie. And so there's no dichotomy. Alrighty, folks, well, I may not have loved the Batman, but here's the thing. Real Batman knows how to have so many great features, award-winning professional Ben Shapiro. So here's the actual plot of the film. Batman has only been Batman for a couple of years, so he's not really good at Batmaning yet. And he is tracking down criminals, and he gets drawn into a plot by the Riddler. The Riddler is giving clues so that Batman can track down all the way through the system of Gotham this citywide corruption that apparently
the Riddler is a far-right conspiracy theorist, by the way,
is going to bring down the entire superstructure of faith in the city. Meanwhile, you have Catwoman, who's Selena Kyle, played by Zoe Kravitz. And Zoe Kravitz is similarly engaged in an attempt to commit a robbery against one of these underworld figures, but she's drawn into Batman's orbit by a murder that both of them are investigating at the same time, the murder of her roommate, maybe something more going on there. The Riddler is the main villain of the movie. You see the Penguin a fair bit. Carmine Falcone is one of the big characters in the movie. You get a little bit of Alfred. Of course, you get Jim Gordon, whose main job in this film is apparently just to say Jesus over and over again.
Christ, it's Coulson.
He does more than that.
Whenever something bad happens, he just goes, Jesus. And that happens like 6 times. Like, Jim Gordon does nothing except for basically stop Batman from getting arrested a lot. That's pretty much all he does. He's a bad detective.
That's what he always fucking does in every single Batman show. In the cartoons, comics, and movies. What the fuck do you mean? Jim Gordon is always that person that stands in between the actual law and Batman actually faces consequences for being a fucking vigilante. That's always the case. It's not new.
Doesn't do anything. The plot is that all these people get killed. Batman uncovers it. He realizes that his dad was corrupt also, or that his dad engaged in corruption with Carmine Falcone. Finally, we get to the end. Paul Dano does it's such a ripoff of Seven. He gives himself up. He doesn't get captured by Batman. Batman does not prevent a single one of these deaths. Batman, in fact, is complicit in one of the deaths by accident.
He couldn't.
And he doesn't actually capture the Riddler because he's clever. The Riddler gives himself up by sitting at a diner and getting arrested.
Because he's a fucking psychopath. Like, it doesn't matter.
then he unleashes a bombing of Gotham that essentially causes the flooding of the city. And Batman goes to the Madison Square Garden, where a mayoral event is now being held for the brand new mayor, who is an uplifting black female who has no other story or backstory. So
You stupid son of a bitch. See what I'm saying? How he sells you racism with all these buzzwords and dog whistles and shit. So basically, the mayor candidate that actually, yeah, she won the election is a progressive politician similar to somebody like Cortez or Rashida Tlaib or Jamal Bowman, where she actually does want to do everything that she can to invest in the community and help make the city a better place to live and shit. And Ben Shapiro is just like focusing on the fact that she's black and trying to demonize her because she's a progressive politician that actually wants to help alleviate the poverty and the structure of power that many people are suffering under and forcing them to turn to crime under.
So she's really uninteresting. It starts to flood, and up
And
on
the movie
top,
was not even about her. The fact of the matter is that sometimes it can be too late. I think the idea of this movie, in my opinion, is that fix problems before they get worse, because you never know when it might be too late to vote in a progressive politician that actually wants to help alleviate these problems and stuff. And pretty much, what happens is the Riddler basically creates a 3%er / Southern citizens type of, armed militia people to go kill all the wealthy people and shit like that.
Up in the wings are a bunch of Paul Dano's followers, are a bunch of the Riddler's followers who are all dressed like the Riddler, and they are shooting down into the crowd to try and kill members of the elite in Gotham City. And so Batman goes up there and he's beating people up. There comes a point where he's beating this guy and he's really like maybe beating him almost to death. And he stops and they take off that guy's mask and they say, "Who are you?" And the guy says, "I am vengeance." Okay, now this is the theme throughout the film. Ooh, the theme.
Because
okay.
it made Batman realize that him beating people up and sending people to jail was not solving the problem. It made him realize he was no better than these criminals here that he was fighting against. That him means so-called vengeance just wasn't enough to save the city, and it wasn't enough to give people hope.
Okay, so in order to explain why this is a problem, you have to now understand the character of the Riddler. So it says right at the beginning of the movie, "Who is Batman? I'm Vengeance," right? He's just on the streets and he's beating people up.
I'm Vengeance.
And then people keep calling him Mr. Vengeance for no apparent reason. Like, we don't know why they're calling him that, because he never actually publicly.
He literally said it when he was first introduced in the movie. When he first came in and attacked the guys in the subway that was trying to jump with that one guy. He literally said, they said, "Who the fuck are you?" And he said, "I'm Vengeance."
He says he's Vengeance. It's in his creepy diary, which again is supposed to be a mirror image of the fact that the Riddler also keeps a Zodiac Killer style diary. So they're supposed to be two halves of the same whole. Batman is beating up this follower of the Riddler's. He takes off his mask and the guy says, "I'm Vengeance." And suddenly Batman sees. Suddenly Batman realizes he can't be Vengeance. That's not what he's meant to do. He's betrayed his mission. And so he then descends on an electrified cable because he's trying to stop people from being.
Because he realized, like I said, he's no better than the criminals that he was fighting right there, and that the city needed more than a vigilante based on, focused on vengeance. They needed a hero. That's what Batman realized.
Being electrocuted by this flying electrical wire, and he cuts off the cable. He's holding on to it. He falls down into the water. A rebaptism. He gets up, and then he proceeds to lead a bunch of people who are not really trapped, but kind of trapped, I suppose. And he leads them.
He started being a fucking hero.
To, I guess, a safer place by carrying it.
Saving people. He wasn't just beating up criminals. He was now fucking saving people, Ben. It takes more than just beating people up and arresting people to be a fucking hero. You actually gotta care about the livelihood, about the people around you to be a fucking hero. That's why in this life, in the next one, conservative motherfuckers and fascists that you create and you spit out that watch your propaganda will always fucking be the bad guys. You wonder why the news media treats people like you, your butt buddy Trump, and the rest of those fuckers like villains, is because you are the fucking bad guys. Constantly advocating against, economic relief. Constantly advocating against the rights and advancements of minority. Constantly fucking going up against at better policing practices and shit like that. You people are fucking villains, and it's like this movie, and I'm sure many other fucking superhero movies and properties, and probably some anime that you don't watch goes completely over your fucking head because you're a fucking moron, and you don't realize that it takes more than just attacking people and being a fucking strong man and beating people into the ground to be a fucking hero. Why you think people fucking like Goku, for instance? People don't just like Goku just because he's fucking strong. People like Goku because he's not only strong and powerful, and he cares. They like him also because he's lackadaisical, happy, enjoys competition, laughs, and is a actual fucking human being. You are a fucking idiot and will never understand these films. This is why I really don't like it when you conservative dickheads try to co-opt nerd culture and nerd pop culture in a way to push your fucking white supremacist agenda when you don't even understand the fucking basics of being a goddamn hero.
A torch. And then he goes up to the top of Madison Square Garden and he is helping people be airlifted and medevaced out. And this is how he has learned fulfillment. So what is this movie about? This movie is about how fighting criminality does not actually help innocent people. He says this at the very beginning.
No, you stupid motherfucker. It is about fighting criminality, but it's about that beating up the criminals committing the crimes might not necessarily be the direct method of solving fucking problems in society.
I'm not sure I'm doing any good.
Because he wasn't doing any good because he wasn't doing any fucking good. What the fuck is beating up somebody that robbed the liquor store is going to do? When that person gets out of fucking jail, they're going to go right back to fucking robbing liquor stores. Or where else the fuck they were up to. You actually got to fix, I know you hate this word, you got to fix the fucking system that causes people to commit these crimes for life to get better.
Fighting the criminals, crime is still up. It turns out that Batman has to stop being Batman.
And it turns out, like fighting fucking criminals and just beating them up. Why do you think society, especially in the United States of America, is the way that it is fucking now? With the police shooting people, with our fucking high-ass sentencing rates for petty-ass fucking crimes. Why the lack of fucking care for the mentally ill and shit like that? The lack of investment in infrastructure like education and transportation and community centers and shit like that. Why do you think shit is the way that it is? Why do you think crime doesn't go down when people use your tactics? Because what you don't fucking realize is that just beating up criminals and putting them in jail doesn't actually fix the society that they fucking live in.
Batman has been missing it the whole time. What Batman really has to be is Superman. Batman needs to go into...
Superman will smack you across the fucking planet for saying that dumb shit. What the fuck is wrong with you? Why the fuck do you think Batman and Superman get a fucking along? Why do you think that they're fucking friends? If this was a Superman movie and Superman was like just beating up criminals and he wasn't, and then at the end of the movie, let's say he fought Lex Luthor, who was like the person responsible for all the organized crime, would your stupid ass be saying that? What would you say then, Ben? Would you say that Superman is trying to be Captain Marvel or Shazam or some shit like that? What the fuck type of take is that? Batman and Superman get a fucking long... And it's like this, especially from the DC animated universe, when in the Justice League, I forgot the name of it, but it's the episode where they thought Superman had died, but he was actually just transported to the future by Toyman. And Batman did a speech over Superman's gravestone. And he said one reason why he liked Superman is because he made him realize that justice didn't have to come from the dark. And that's what makes the two good friends, is because they inspire each other to make the world a better place and play to each other's weaknesses to help each other become better. That's why by the time in Justice League Unlimited, Superman is a much hardened and more serious fucking hero. So this bullshit you're talking about Batman trying to be Superman is fucking nonsense. It's called character building. It's called self-introspecting and becoming a better person.
To areas like Madison Square Garden and not fight the criminals. He needs to go and lead people with a torch to a slightly safer area. He needs to help medevac people.
He learned how he has to do fucking both, you idiot. One thing that you will notice is that the criminals were fucking beaten by this point in the fucking movie. And instead of fighting the criminals up there, wasting his time, especially since they might just get back up it is a little bit smarter just to get people away from the people that's shooting at them instead of going up there and knocking the same people out 2, 3, 4 fucking times.
People on
Ben
the top of
Shapiro was dropped on his head as a kid.
He needs to build Habitat for Humanity. He needs to join Jimmy Carter and build houses for
Nobody says that, you stupid fuck. See what I'm saying about this guy? He does not want... See, Ben Shapiro does not want society to get better. Especially for the people that are my color that he fucking hates. Instead of it being, like I said, community centers and better education and shit like that and mental health asylums, he wants more police precincts built. He thinks that this strongman bullshit does not lead to a society that gets better. It leads to a world of fascism. It leads to a world of a white supremacist police state.
Homeless people. That's what Batman needs to be doing. This really is a sort of...
Batman should do that.
Attack on the idea that fighting crime helps innocent people. It's an almost defund the police attitude toward...
That's your fucking problem, idiot. That's your ideology. You're choosing and losing ideology in history, and people are critiquing you for the dumbass that you are.
What crime is. And it's an attack on the basic idea that individuals are capable of doing justice by finding bad guys and fighting them. Instead, apparently, individuals are only capable...
You gotta do both, stupid. You don't only gotta fight bad guys. It's not like somebody wants fucking pedophiles running on the fucking streets. People don't want people running on the streets just robbing and fucking carjacking people. The argument is that as well as fighting criminals, you also have to solve the problems that cause people to become criminals.
Of doing nice things by helping little old ladies cross the street. It's this sort of mentality that has led...
fucking helps, you idiot, man. Like, I worked in a soup kitchen, and I done helped a lot of, like, let's say, displaced younger guys who, were criminals and shit like that by giving them clothes and just sitting down talking to them about their mental health and shit. And what they would tell me is that helped a lot. And you want to know what the fuck some of them did after I got finished, like, helping them out? They didn't commit crime again. They kept working. They became rappers and shit like that. And like music artists that perform local shows and shit. They became fucking workers, constantly in and out of fucking jobs, working at Amazon, working at plants and shit like that. Talking to people and caring about their mental well-being, listening to what they have to say and giving them some means to survive, whether it's clothing, food, cologne, deodorant, whatever it might fucking be, actually helps people better themselves. And this dumb lackadaisical bullshit about this strongman mentality where you want people just getting beat on just makes the world a worse and harder place to fucking live. It doesn't make the world better. The world you are fighting for, Ben, leads to worlds controlled by people like Putin or Pinochet or fucking Francisco Franco. Your way and ideology does not lead to the world becoming a better fucking place when people are policed into the fucking ground.
Led to New York turning into Gotham City in the last couple of years, by the way. That's a fundamental betrayal.
Why? Is it because they ended stop and frisk and made it illegal because it unfortunately targeted minorities more than it did white people, you fucking ass face? Was it because they fucking went after my man's died from getting fucking choked to death? They made fucking making chokeholds illegal? Fact check me on that one. I don't know if that's true or not. Was it because the police fucking retrained and created better tactics for policing and interacting with the community instead of just going in with their fucking guns drawn against people that are colors that you don't fucking like?
What Batman is. What makes Batman different from the Riddler and than any of these other criminals is these criminals target innocent people and Batman targets criminals. That's the basis of the character.
Criminals are regular fucking people. He's a vigilante with no right to target any fucking body, first of all, before we even talk about anything else.
The entire basis of the character is the cops are bad at targeting criminals because they're corrupt. Batman is good at targeting criminals because he's smart and because he's rich and because he's incorruptible. That's the entire basis of Batman. And they take all that and they flip it on its head because they don't like Batman. And this is why I have
They do like Batman, you stupid motherfucker. The idea of this film is to show that it takes more than a fucking strong man to be a fucking hero. How hard is that for you to understand? You call yourself so fucking smart. You won all these debates with your superior intellect, your facts over feelings bullshit. But you can't understand a simple plot about being a hero takes more than just beating up criminals and putting them in fucking jail. And how that makes the problem worse and how it exacerbates problems that we have to deal with today. You're an idiot, Ben. And I really don't understand how anybody thinks that you're some type of intellectual champion or smart in any way, shape, or form.
Real problems with the movie. I kind of hate the movie. Like, the more I think about it, the more I get angry at it, because they take the fun.
They're making them be nice to those fucking, black people in New York City. Criminals in New York City. Being nice to people I don't like. Those fucking criminals. They don't deserve to fucking have a second chance at life. No rehabilitation. No health care. They deserve to just fucking get the nightstick to the head. It makes me so angry when people are nice to skin colors of people. Criminals that I don't like.
Fundamental idea
I know
of
there's white criminals out there too, and my heart goes out to the motherfuckers that gotta deal with, not because it's weird being like, when you're white and poor and white and working class, you have to deal with that weird intersection of being white privilege but also very poor, so you don't necessarily get the full benefits of being a white person.
what Batman is supposed to be, the protector of the innocent who targets the criminal. And they say that if he targets the criminal, this makes him no different than criminals. Because Paul Dano, who's
fucking criminals too. They the ones that was taking money meant to be invested in orphanages and shit and pocketing it. Were you listening to the fucking movie? Do you read anything that goes on in society?
the Riddler, is also targeting criminals all the way up until the very end, when they have to just sort of add on this attack on
rich people can be fucking criminals. And a lot of them are. They're just above the law because they're rich, man.
Madison Square Garden and New York Broad Writ for no reason.
It reminds me of why I probably took a long break from doing these. These motherfuckers are stupid, bro. Like, you refuse to understand any of the further analysis that this movie had on society, and you're just saying, oh, they're just saying be soft on crime. They're being soft on criminals. And you refuse to learn any fucking thing from what this movie is trying to teach people, man. What is wrong with you? Are you fucking adverse to taking in more information?
He has no motivation for blowing up a bunch of trucks and flooding downtown. Like, none. He doesn't explain why he does it. He doesn't explain.
He told us why. He grew up in a fucking orphanage. He was really poor. And nobody cared for him. And many other people. And he knew that the rich politicians were pocketing money meant to be invested into public services, which exacerbated the problems of crime and poverty. Were you not listening, man? I saw that movie a month ago, and I still remember that I fell asleep a good 20 minutes during this fucking movie, but I managed to remember everything that happened, but you don't.
Explain what the purpose of it is. All the way along, he's been saying, I'm exposing the true face of Gotham. Okay, that's a
corrupt rich politicians, those people that pay you to make bullshit like this, which are real people that cause actual harm in society.
Rationale. But what does that have to do with blowing up the city? They add that on just so that
sometimes when people are feeling dispossessed from society in one way or another, it leads to them becoming terrorists. Whether it's white nationalism, whether it's right-wing libertarian nationalism, like that bullshit you push, will actually be... See, Ben, you don't really realize is that the shit you push right here leads to Riddlers in two ways. You lead to Riddlers because you cause people to become 3%ers and shit like that, where they want to go, where they don't realize that the real problem is capitalism and white supremacy, so they cause random terrorist attacks. The ideology that Ben pushes leads to Timothy McVeigh's. Believe it or fucking not. And also this strong man beat the criminal down ideology leads to more criminals in general.
They can create a false distinction between Batman and the Riddler so that Batman can change his mission. So now Batman's mission is not beating up bad guys and stopping bad guys.
He's still going to beat up and stop bad guys, but he also knows that the corrupt politicians that run the city are a part of the problem too. Why are you refusing to take in new information, man? You said you can watch, you're rich. You can watch this movie 7 times. You can buy the movie and say that you want to promote it on your fucking program, probably. You fucking rich enough. You can pay fucking WB to do that. But somehow, you just can't take in that new information about Batman realizing that it takes more than just being strong to be a fucking hero. What is wrong with you?
Now Batman's mission is to be a firefighter. He's no longer a detective or a police officer.
He has to be both, you fucking idiot, bro. Every fucking hero does more than just beat up bad guys, man. If you watch any cartoon or read any comic book, whether we're talking Marvel or DC, you won't just see fucking superheroes beating up villains. You will see them rescuing people from fires, stopping people from committing suicide and falling off fucking buildings, and stuff like that. You will see all this shit, man. They stop people from getting hit by fucking cars while crossing the fucking street and stuff like that. Being a hero takes more than just beating up fucking criminals. Even a fucking regular police officer will fucking, at least a decent police officer, mind you, even though it's not really many of those. A police officer will tell you that it takes more than just being a fucking strong warrior to be a fucking hero, which is the point of most fucking heroes.
Officer who's a firefighter. That's a betrayal, and it's a real problem. And that's my biggest
issue. You're shown in the first episode of most shows, whether we're talking about the Avengers. I'm not even just talking about the movies. I'm talking about like the cartoons and comics, or the Autobots on Transformers, or fucking even people on Dragon Ball and shit like that. Is that they are showing protecting people that are weaker and that are innocent, and not necessarily by fighting some bad guy. They are stopping people from getting burnt up in fire, stopping people from getting crushed, showing that they don't only care about stopping the bad guy, they also care about making sure that people live to breathe the fucking next day. It takes more. And it's like I said this 1,000 times during this video. It takes more than just being strong to be a fucking hero. It takes you caring about the world around you, Ben. And that's why your party, and the rest of the people affiliated with your fucking movement, be it the white supremacists, be it the weird Proud Boys, we accept Jews and black people motherfuckers, your Anthony Bryan Logan, and all you motherfuckers are treated as the bad guys in society, is because you don't know that it takes more than just stopping the bad guy to be a fucking hero.
Issue with the film. It just feels like such a sellout. It feels like such a
5 out of 5.
Sellout of what Batman is supposed
to critique in the way that we look at society and crime and stuff like that. Because it could have just been another Batman movie where Batman goes and beat up and stop the criminals, but I like that they did something more, and especially when they do something more to fucking offend white supremacist ideologues like Ben Shapiro.
To be, again, it's got a little bit of woke politics, but that's really not the problem. The problem is
the woke politics is, and there was so many black people in this movie, man. Woof.
The broader woke orientation of the film.
I thought you said the woke politics wasn't a problem.
Nolan Batman was about the idea that you help innocent people by fighting criminality and provide an inspiration to people to fight criminality. If that's the idea of Batman, which it is,
I need to go back and watch the Christopher Nolan ones, but I know he probably wrong about it and completely full of shit.
Completely thrown on its head here. Matt Reeves, who's credited as both a director and a writer on the
Give me a second.
film. He does not like Batman, and I can't get over this. How do you give $150 million to do to make
man, I'm not gonna say it again.
A movie about Batman when he clearly does not like Batman, when he thinks that Batman is bad, and that Batman has to be shown the error of his ways and learn to be a nicer human being. By the way, the very end of the movie, Catwoman.
It's like weird to keep a straight face, man. Like, you didn't learn nothing from the movie. Like, I literally just told you. Well, I told everybody else. He can't fucking hear me. But I keep saying it over and over again. It takes more to being a hero than being a strong warrior. It takes you actually caring about the world around you.
Point has actually demonstrated any sort of moral bona fides. Like, I'm not sure she does a moral thing in the entire movie. At the very end, she says to him, "Why don't you run away with me?"
Catwoman is never meant to be a moral character in any incarnation. So what the fuck are you talking about? Is she just immoral because she's colored?
And we'll go rob some hedge fund CEOs. And he doesn't say back to her, you know, that's bad to rob hedge fund CEOs. Instead,
you know what Batman thinks. We don't need him to say it out loud and spell it out for us.
He's like, he thinks about it for a moment. She's like, no, you belong in Gotham. The generalized cheap left-wing sensibility is very silly with regard to Catwoman. If I have not made clear at this point, the movie's also 8 hours long. It's like a Wagnerian ring cycle. This
3 hours, and Catwoman was never implied to be a good person.
This film, it just goes on and on and on. Every shot is composed in order to have people walk across rooms.
It's
like
a
Christopher Nolan
Batman movie
would snap that cut right to the action. If you watch Dark Knight, there is no wasted motion in that film, and it's 2.5 hours long. This is 3 hours long, and it feels like 4. I never check my watch during movies, particularly not a Batman movie. And I checked my watch at least twice during this film. It's better than Marvel because everything's better than Marvel
Oh,
because
that
Marvel
black person came on screen. What time is it? No, don't even go on Marvel movies, dude, because those movies are about that it takes more. Even though those heroes in that movie, especially let's say Tony Stark, for instance, realized that how his corporate power and money and weapons was hurting people.
doesn't take characters seriously and Marvel feels like cotton candy. This doesn't feel like
But yeah, I think I said what I had to say about Tony Stark being a fucking hero and stuff like that, and having a similar story to Batman, realizing that how his corporate power and can hurt other people and stuff like that, and wanting to aspire to be a better person. But I guess that's the idea of the conservative agenda is never to self introspect about the world around you and think outside, just beating people up and shooting people, knowing that there's more ways and more problems in society that can be fixed through humanitarianism than just violence.
cotton candy. It just feels like a fundamental betrayal of the character, which is just it's lazy
It's not.
writing.
It was fucking perfect. It was perfect. It was a perfect portrayal of Batman. The only reason why Ben doesn't like it is because it critiques his fascistic ideology of just beating up criminals and blaming criminals for what the problems are in the world. And he does not like that. He wants a world where criminals don't have rights. He wants a world where criminals constantly face discrimination. He wants a world where people are neglected by their elected officials and not taken seriously because the people that pay him to push this fucking fascist propaganda benefit from a world where there's no social services and where people don't think outside the box about how they can solve criminality.
And more than that, it's not nice to the audience. The audience wants to see Batman be Batman and be good at being Batman.
And yeah, he got better at being Batman. That's the one thing I loved about the movie.
And know why he's being Batman. They don't want to see Batman learn the lesson that being Batman is bad. That defeats the purpose of going to a Batman film.
What's the fucking point in the movie?
Alrighty, so that is my review.
Man, that's a fucking. I mean, at the end of the fucking day, bro, what I always want people to remember: number one, don't let these fucking cunts who try to co-opt nerd culture in a way to push fascistic and white supremacist agenda make you be able to reel you in through things that you like. Number one, like I said at the beginning, remember that a lot of these fucking movies, TV shows, and comic books were written to critique society, whether it be white supremacy and white nationalism, capitalism, criminality, and our how seriously we take mental health and stuff in society. So that's the number one thing you can remember. Also remember the fact that, like I kept saying 1,000 times in this video, is that it takes more. Even like a regular like cop on the street would tell you that it takes more than just being a strong man to be a hero. It takes much, much more than that. Just beating up criminals does not actually solve the problems or make the world a better place to live and shit. That can actually make the world a worser place to live and stuff for people and stuff. So just remember that at the end of the day is that care about your community, try to make your community a better place to live and shit. But just always remember that that it's more ways to solve problems besides just attacking the criminals. And that was the point of the Batman is Batman became a better hero because at the end of the movie he actually became a hero. He wasn't just somebody running around in a suit just beating up criminals. And like, I gotta say it one more time before we end this recording is just don't let this dipshit, co-opt your, because you might be like a nerd in some way or another. You like comic books and geeky stuff. Don't let him co-opt your culture to turn the things that we love into some weird pseudo fascist movement